Welcome back, Warriors. Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. And hope you guys are on your purpose. Hope you guys are doing well, staying away from all those energy losses and just building momentum as you go stronger and stronger. I'm getting, in my case, closer to 500 days, and I'm at 16 monk mode days. So we're getting stronger and stronger. And I feel unbelievable. So I will talk more about that once we get closer to 500 and hit 500 and see how far we are in monk mode. But the idea, guys, that we're going to talk about today is going to talk about why large numbers of body count, which is a new term that I just got familiar with, is dangerous to your health. Okay, but first, go ahead, subscribe, comment, like. I take articles. I requested people to send me ideas, articles, and videos that you may want me to reflect on and talk about things that are happening in society. And I'm learning a lot about the new dating pattern. I haven't been dating in many years, but I'm learning a lot about that through my students at school and through you guys talking to me about things. And one of the topics that we talk about is this new idea that body counts are a good thing. So I'm going to kind of talk about the opposite of this, which means that it is not a very good thing for you to do, especially on your journey. And that's why the key thing is to looking at what it does, how it affects you, and what you can obviously do to stop it. So those are the things we're going to talk about. So body count is obviously this term that talks about that you want to have, multiple partners all week long or all day, every day. And some people are bragging they have 50 in a day and all this kind of stuff. And who knows, what the real truth is, whether they're doing that or not. It used to be that men talked about it a lot more within the, male circles. Now females are talking about it. And I think that's a very interesting type of thing. So let's kind of delve into this a little bit and see this. So having a body count means that you're losing energy. You may be losing energy in more ways than one. Obviously, you're dealing with lots of different people at one time. And chances are you are losing energy with different partners. And you're doing it over and over and over again. Well, I pulled up something that a person was talking about, and his name is Andrew Hiberman. And I think Dr. Hiberman's a neuroscientist, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of put his name in the link down here so you can actually kind of look him up. But he had a good idea here, and he talked about the fact that when you are addicted to something, whether you go ahead and have sex with multiple partners, which is really an addiction, people are doing multiple partners all week long, all day, and that's what they do from one minute to next. Then they basically, their whole life is this addiction. He talked about the addiction of drugs, the addiction of sex, the addiction of images and porn, all these type of things he talked about, and even eating, right? Putting things in your mouth over a period of time. Those things are, food, and those things are negative. Gambling, right? Drugs and alcohol. All these things become addictions. Now, why does it happen? Well, as he's talking about this, he's saying that these type of addictions creates a large amount of dopamine. We get pleasure in those type of things at the beginning, and the expansion of that, right, brings up the pleasure. The addiction now is basically saying, okay, I need to have more excitement, more drugs, more gambling, more smoking, whatever it might be, to make myself even get to a higher level. And that's kind of the exaggeration he does. And what ends up happening is you become so saturated with the dopamine, so much of this behavior, that now you get a withdrawal, and it's painful if you don't get it. So if you're gambling and you get a couple days off of gambling, then all of a sudden, you go into withdrawal. Or you have a cocaine addiction, and all of a sudden now you're, trying to stay away from it, or an alcohol addiction. The first few days is murder, just like we saw with our retention, right? In many ways, the retention, the fapping, is an addiction. And all these things happen because at first it creates a lot of dopamine and it's pleasure. But at some level, you're not going to get the same level of excitement from this thing you're viewing or the thing you're doing. And now you need a lot more of it, or a greater degree to get excited. The same thing in watching pictures. 1 minute you may release on one type of picture, and then Now, the next time, you're not going to be releasing on the same thing anymore, and now you're going to something else. And now you have to get to a higher extreme. And this has been documented in a lot of cases of criminals, that they weren't satisfied with just one thing. They had to kind of go to more excitement, because the adrenaline, the dopamine was so strong that they became addicted to it. And so, guys, in this type of thing that Dr. Hiberman, the neuroscientist, was talking about how much saturation, too much of it, we get. And so the idea is that you cannot end up sleeping with multiple partners without being affected. You're going to be affected from an addiction standpoint. You're going to be affected by not being able to regulate your behavior, okay? And so the more people you sleep with, right, the less chance you're going to find somebody with higher value, because now what ends up happening is you're trying to find different levels of these people who are going to be, easier and easier to get, and it's not going to be high value. So the key, guys, is looking at this is to be very selective to the people that you're going to choose to release energy to. It could be a wife that you want eventually. It could be someone who you're very close to. But remember that every time you're doing that, now you're releasing more energy, and now you're potentially going to get addicted to that if you're doing it too much. That's why this journey is so hard. Because, guys, in a sense, we're in an addiction, right? And our whole purpose to all of this is to regulate ourselves. This is where successful people go. They're able to regulate themselves, control themselves, the 3 C's, right? Control, confidence, and communication. And so when you look at this, and I think that's another thing I was going to mention, he talked about here, the idea that any of these types of addictions, they're great at the beginning, right? We think nothing of it. We think we can control it. We don't think we can ever be controlled by the drugs, right? Doing a little marijuana here, doing a little bit of cocaine here, gambling a little bit, driving fast on a highway, all these things, having multiple partners, all these type of things. They start off being pretty innocent, right? They start off with the idea that you're pretty innocent because you think you can control it. The problem occurs is because you're getting so much pleasure and the dopamine coming in when you're doing it, that now you feel like, okay, I'm going to take it to another level. And then eventually you become so saturated with it that now not to do it creates a lot of pain. And a lot of pain that comes from the fact that you're withdrawing. The same thing with like sugar addictions, right? Any kind of addiction you have. Now, we all experience addictions. Obviously, the one we're talking about here is the images and also the actual succubuses we're talking about, who are drawing your energy away from you. It is very difficult, guys, to have multiple partners and even think about being on a journey. That's the last thing you're thinking about. And I, when I was younger, before I got married, I understand exactly how, especially you guys, are thinking, right? I mean, multiple partners is something we, in society, especially for males, is something that is supposed to be a manly type of thing. This is where the problem is, I think, in society we have. Women now are looking at it the same way, and it just looks bad, in my mind. And maybe you can call me old-fashioned. But the idea, guys, is that if you're sleeping around with multiple people, you're not doing anybody any good. All you're doing is short-term pleasure, and that's not worth it in the long run. It can hurt you, it hurts the other person. All these type of things are occurring because you're not able to regulate your behaviors. And once you're able to do that, you take a whole different look at life and saying, is this person that I'm about to do this with, is this something that I'm getting something out of besides just a short-term pleasure? Is this something that is going to create a win-win situation in the long run? Now, do people look at that this way? I'm sure they don't, right? They're looking for short-term pleasures. And so that's why you may 1 minute, have something with somebody, and next minute they're ghosting you, right? Which is another term that a lot of the younger viewers and people are using, right? That they're ghosting people. They're not talking to the person anymore. That's why it's very important for you to be on this journey, to be able to see the difference and understand how important your power is. Don't just give up your power just for nothing, right? you're not going to go ahead and do that when you're looking and seeing how important this type of thing is. Okay? So as we look at this, guys, it's important to kind of keep focusing on how you're going to deal with, right, the whole idea of controlling that behavior so that you don't need to keep doing higher and higher dopamine levels. That means getting involved with other types of things. Don't allow one behavior to control you. So if you release one time, fine, go ahead and do and release. If that's what you're going to do, you do it. But don't keep doing it for the next, 5 hours later, 10 hours later, and those type of things. It's a matter of moderation. This is the toughest lesson, I think, and this is what the Bible talked about too. Having moderation for all things is difficult. So if you're eating, don't overeat. Eat small, right? If you want to go out and gamble and have fun, that's fine. But don't do it every day, right? But this is the addiction you get, because once you start doing it, now your dopamine levels go higher, and now this becomes so pleasurable, and you get so much pleasure that you forgot about controlling it. And that's what becomes the negative. So that's why you have to stay away from those type of things. And it's easy to get addicted. A lot of people don't realize how fast they get addicted, and now they're sitting in this saturated state where they need to have it, and they'll do anything for it. And that you become more of a slave. So now you put yourself in a box because the addiction caught up with you. And when it comes to actual intercourse, and when it comes to actual, looking at images and pictures and pornography, you have to avoid that like the plague, especially if you have a high energy level. And those type of things are going to come after you, and they're going to hound you until they give you the temptation to give in. Don't give in. Continue to do the things and the goals, and focus on those things that are going to make things better for you, and going ahead and focusing on the better version of yourself. All right, guys, enough for this one. Once again, send ideas, send videos, send things if you want me to react to, and give you my opinion on things. I think the key thing here, guys, is keep on your plan, keep on your purpose, and don't allow things to get you into the addicted stage where it looks like pleasure, but in the long run, it becomes your cage and you can't get out. Until next time, battle on.